The identity you needed isn't the identity that you need now. Does that make any sense to you? Let's talk about that as I show you the air behind me, the mountains, and looks gorgeous, at least on the camera. The fires are, it's 13% contained at this point, the Aspen Acres fire. So it's very, very smoky and smells like a chimney. So, but I just wanted to let you know that was what's happening. So let's talk about this identity that you needed at one point, and it's not the identity you need now. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I was having a conversation. I actually had a couple of conversations today with people I know that are talking about people they know that, well, one doesn't call himself an alcoholic, but another one does. And I just got to thinking about the way I see things. Everything has value. Absolutely everything. Even if it seems like the worst thing in the world. And just a little example of that is just a small example is I was thinking about somebody in the evacuation that has evacuated from the fire from like Colorado City or somewhere, and they would come to Westcliff, and then they might meet the person of their dreams. And had the fire not happened, they would have never gotten to the center, the evacuee center, and they would have never met. And these things happen all the time. And so sometimes we don't know what is going to happen, like what's the outcome of that, until it happens, and then we can look back, oh my gosh, like it would have never happened. The world is filled with these stories of these types of things happening. So now I'm going back to the identity, and I meant, what I said was, I believe everything has value, and I used that as an example. So now let's talk about an alcoholic. So somebody who says they're an alcoholic, and there's one thing that I don't think is the best practice with neuroplasticity, and that is saying, I'm an alcoholic. I'm this, I'm that, I'm whatever it is. If it's something that doesn't serve you, to say it over and over, you're telling your brain, this is who I am. This is what I am. This is the identity. And so pretty soon you're living from that identity. So now an alcoholic almost has an excuse to drink. I'm an alcoholic. That's what alcoholics do. And the brain is supporting that. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about it, because I'm looking at my notes because this is really interesting. People say they just want to destroy that part of themselves, that, if they could just get rid of it. And I get it. I get it a lot. And meaning I have compassion and empathy for that, and wanting to change so desperately and not knowing how to do that. And so is the answer rewiring your brain? I'd say that's part of the answer. A very big part of this stability spiral, and I'm not saying that this is the total answer. Hopefully you can read that. I hope it's, right for where you can read it. But that's the PDF that you can always download for free in the description in the comments. And this is the reason I bring it up with, and using the example of an alcoholic, and that everything has value, is that drinking was a tool. It literally helped someone cope with a relationship, an event, stress in some way, pressure. It was a tool. it started off as a tool. And even if it was because, well, my parents drink, so I drink, or whatever, it was it was something that served that individual. And which is why I say that it's that identity you needed is no longer the identity that you need now for something that does not serve you. So the more that a person, and I'm not saying you, I'm saying me or whoever, just a person. When I say you, I'll try and say when one, or when a person, when a human being, and I might say you, but it's not you. So when a person is says over and over again, I'm fat, I'm not good enough, I'll never have enough money, I'm shy, I'm so clumsy, I've always been clumsy, I never remember names, I'm really bad at names, I'm just no good, like I'm just not the best person, and I try hard, but I'm not really good person. And all the things that I'm always late, but creating an identity around it, like I'm always the late one. So I'm trying to create an identity when someone says that they are like, and I'll go right back to our alcoholic. So these things that we say, they were programs. We heard them, or we became them. They became part of our identity. And so that the alcoholic, going back to that, that's repeat, 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 repeat. And the brain says, okay, gotcha. I'm here to support you. You are an alcoholic. And so now it's a program. Now it's a habit, which is why, and not being a doctor, not being a mental health professional, just being me and my experience and understanding, and my understanding of neuroplasticity in the brain as much as I understand it. And I'm going to be the first to tell you that there are parts really learning the brain that I have left out, and my reason, not that I've left out, but the reason is I don't think we've even touched the brain. And I just, based on what I know about medicine, I just really believe that, I mean, Western medicine and the body and things, I just really believe that the more we know, the less we know. And so I go based off of what I've learned, and then I let go what doesn't serve me. And then I watch my clients, I watch myself first. Like I am my own laboratory for rewiring the brain, which I've done for years now, and I can totally tell. I've been my own laboratory for this stability spiral that since Steve passed. I'm just showing it again right here. But when he passed, like I was so destabilized. I was off, and with grief. Not that I didn't go move through the grief. You still life, but it's literally, do you want to have there are two states, and this is what I created, the program reactor. Not created. This is what I lived, Lynette and I, and we were trying to figure it out, and it's what I finally was able to understand after we went through it for so long, how destabilized we were and how we found stability again, and how we internalized. We came from that internally rather than externally, looking outside of us for stability. We came from within. And that's where this stability spiral came from actual, call it trauma, call it an event, call it something that was no fun at all. And so, but yet here it is. And again, everything has value. That had Steve not passed, this wouldn't exist. And it's not that this is so great, but now I understand stability. Now I understand more than that. I understand access to the parts, the whole of us that get narrowed or shut down when we are in survival mode, which is the programmed reactor on this stability spiral. because pressure creates a destabilization, and then the destabilization creates more pressure, and then it just keeps going down, and you have a programmed reaction, like literally, because now you're in survival mode, and so now you're just reacting from your programs. You're literally reacting, not choosing, not having access to the whole of you because you're in survival. So a person is in survival. I was going to try not to say you. But anyway, then the internal, that's the program reactor, and then the internal operator, it creates microstabilities, and that's like breathing or taking a drink of water or walking outside and earthing, watching a favorite show, like anything to create a little bit of space that creates capacity so that you can then move forward with more clarity and then choice. And that part of the internal operator then creates the state creates access to the whole of you, your brain, your heart, your intuition, your gut, like the whole of you, rather than a shutdown for survival. So that's what the stability spiral is about. It's not about, you're still lifing. I'm still lifing. You've listened to my stability moments. And if you have, every night, hopefully, every single day. But I'm still lifing. And I've had some things happen that are just like, wow, a little bit crazy. And some are just kind of funny and dealing with, and some are deep programs. And so I just share them with you because I'm still lifing, yet I'm getting better and better and better. It is a skill. With the stability spiral, stabilizing the nervous system and gaining that back is a skill. Gaining the access back to the whole of you is a skill. So now let's go back to what I said is at the old identity. And I'm kind of going back and forth because I'm weaving all of this in together. And that identity you needed is not the identity you need now. So if a person says, I'm an alcoholic, and they want to change, because if you don't, there are some that don't. That's their identity, and it gives them permission, and they don't want to stop. They feel too weak to stop, or it's their identity, and they believe that's who I am. I'm an alcoholic, and they freely admit it, and it's like I'm fine, and so that's a whole different deal. I'm talking about someone who actually wants to quit anything, smoking, or I'm using alcohol just because the conversations. And that, it's like, first of all, I started off with, it all has value. So there was a tool. Drinking was a tool that served. And now that identity became, because when the person first took a drink, they didn't say, I'm an alcoholic. Or maybe they did, but because my dad was or something, but it's in my family. I've heard that before too. But when a person, the average person, just a person, I don't want to get into therapy and all of that because that's not what I'm trained in, and it's unimportant to this conversation. So, but a person takes a drink, and then it's for celebrating, it's for whatever it is, it's an event, it's something. And then it's, it regulated something. It was loneliness, anxiety, trauma, celebration, belonging. Like Steve and I would have a toddy. It's like, it's 5 o'clock, babe, let's have a toddy. That's like tradition. His parents did that. At 4 o'clock, they would always go and get some popcorn at the local bar place, and then they'd have a toddy. And that was kind of what they did. There's stress, there's escape. Like, these are the things that someone might, it's a tool. And then that tool becomes a habit because it's repeated, which is just like the self-talk, by the way, which you can get 30 days free. It's a tool. and you repeat, and then it becomes a habit. A habit literally is just a thought or phrase or anything that's repeated over and over again, like the news. This is why the news is reported over and over and over, and there's barely a story that changes. So the habit then becomes the identity. Like, I'm an alcoholic, and now the person is saying, I'm an alcoholic. So now that identity starts to protect the habit. And that's the person who, like, I'm an alcoholic, now I have permission, I'm just going to drink. So I think that I was writing some things out, but I think that that has become, I don't think, I know that that has become a very strong habit, pathway, thought. And so let's just go with this progression. So an old pain or a trigger, whatever that is, and then the tool, say drinking for this, the repeated behavior. I think a bug just went in my eye. And the repeated behavior, and that's the subconscious program, which creates the identity. And then now the automatic access pathway. Now you have that automatic access pathway, like the wiring and firing together in the brain, the neurons. And then now this person is triggered. And whatever it is that had them, their nervous system, everything narrows, right? We're in survival. It's like we're contracting, so that this person is contracting. And the subconscious accesses what? Alcohol. And it's because it's the strongest programmed pathway. It was the tool that this person used. So that's where I bring this in and say, I wonder if this could actually, I know that it could, unless there's, some other medical reason why someone would drink. But as far as the brain and neuroplasticity and the ability to rewire that in someone's brain, and for them to move from the state of the programmed reactor to the internal operator, it's like to realize, okay, wait, that's a program, and it's getting really dark, so I'll just finish real quickly. But and then to pause and to recognize that, okay, I'm about to spiral. I'm feeling triggered. I'm overwhelmed. I'm about ready to just get a drink. It's easier. That's because it's the path of least resistance. That's how the brain works. That's how we work. The path of least resistance. It's easiest. We remember. We don't have to think. It saves time. You think about making a recipe or doing something that you do, driving to work every day or wherever you're going. If you had to think, what are the directions and how do I get there? It's the path of least resistance. You learn it, and the brain's like, okay, it's a pattern. I got it. This is how we go. And it supports you in that. So now I'm an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. It's the path to work. It's the strongest pathway. And so now the first thing is, now I'm triggered. So now it's reach for a drink. And that's where I believe the internal operator, that the identity that we are now using, that's where I see that the identity now, you can shift that identity. It's like when you rewire your brain, you literally are telling your brain with the phrases from the 30 Days Free, if you the app, the self-talk app, which is my mentors, if you listen to those phrases, it's literally painting a picture of an identity, of a successful person, of a person with a healthy self-esteem, of a person who doesn't smoke, because there's also to help smoking. These are just habits, thoughts that are repeated over and over again, and become a habit, or doing something over and over again becomes a habit. It's a program. So now, if that person is willing to work with this as the programmed reactor, just because they're destabilized, just like anything else. If someone, hits you in the back with the car, you have a crash and they hit you in the back, you're going to be destabilized, and it's going to freak you out. And more than likely, it's something that's not the pattern for your day. Or somebody yells in your that one that one you might go into survival, you know, if it's bad enough, or maybe it's just, you know, a small fender bender or something, but still. So, but my point is, you become destabilized. Say your husband yells at you, or your kid yells at you, or a boss yells at you, or something. There's destabilization that happens, because that's not normal. That is not a human's normal state, to be destabilized, dysregulated, their nervous system. So that is where this beautiful internal operator comes in, that you create a microstability, like breathe or drink some water, what I was saying before, you know, a microstability. And then, because basically you're creating capacity by doing that, you're stopping your brain. You have that second to interrupt the brain from just going to the subconscious programming. You have just that split second. It's like, okay, I'm aware, I'm about to spiral, and now you're in control. You get to decide. Are you just gonna take the state of, because they're states, not people, but the state of the programmed reactor, where it just goes subconsciously and you're just running the program and just go into survival, or you choose the state of the internal operator that gives you access back to yourself, because literally that's what I teach, is access back to, come home to you, meaning come home to who you are, to self, rather than to just spiraling, downward spiral, out of control emotionally, or any way, your nervous system contracting, narrowing, squeezing. Rather, there's expansion. And so that, having that capacity, so I started off with the identity that you had doesn't serve you to, you don't necessarily have that identity. It doesn't serve you today, because the tool can change. And that's what I'm talking about, is now you can change. You can use, say, the stability spiral, or you could have a glass of water, or, which is probably, to drink something is probably not the way to go, but you could run, or you could, you know, do something totally different to shake up the brain, to disrupt that pattern, and then move through the stability spiral. A person could do that. And if they were consistent with it, it would start to happen the way that the things for me, like I see something, it's like, I just say, that's a stability moment. That's a stability moment. I had 2 of them today. So it's just when you're about to get, you know, kind of start losing a little bit of control, a little bit of access to the whole of you, and or something, just, there's a little bit of dysregulation, or in your nervous system. And so say now that tool that was serving the alcoholic, now that's became the identity, and now you can literally choose a different identity, rather than saying, I'm an alcoholic, because repeat, the brain's saying, I got it, you're an alcoholic. I'm here to support you in your efforts to be the alcoholic that you say you are. Because that's what it does. It does not think, it's not subjective, it's objective. And it runs on it does lots of other things, but that part, it runs on programs. So it's just something to think about. And I wanted to share that, because everything has value. Absolutely everything. The tool that the drink helped in the beginning, now maybe it's a little outdated. There's no shame in that. Find another tool. You know, whatever it is, find another tool. Talk to someone. You know, I don't mean like counseling. I'm like a friend, a spouse, and find something that you can consistently change. That's change yourself to where you can stabilize the nervous system. And once you stabilize the nervous system, then you have full access to the whole of you. You can come home to the whole of you, and not have the cortisol and the adrenaline and everything running through you. to put you, that happens when you go into survival mode, when something destabilizes you. So I thought I would just share that today. That is your stability moment for today. Oh my gosh, that went long. It's 25 minutes. Anyway, okay, I just thought it was really important to share that because I don't believe that this is a nothing tool, because it helped Lynette and myself, and it's helped my students and my clients to move into an empowered position rather than a disempowered position, because the disempowered, the program reactor, that's a disempowered position. Literally, the subconscious is in control, and there you go. You just go down. So you're destabilized. Something destabilizes you. There's pressure. Then you're destabilized. Whatever that created that pressure, someone, an event, something. And now you're destabilized. And now you're starting to spiral down. There's overwhelm. There's uncertainty. There's something. And then you just continue down. And then the cortisol and the adrenaline all come in to help you stay in survival, to help you survive the moment. A lot of people live in what I call, and I said it on this channel before, and they live in a constant state of a constant low-grade inflammation state is what I call low-grade survival state. I think a lot of people do. And so there's a lot of problems with digestion, and because when you're in survival, everything narrows, everything constricts, everything slows down just so that you can run or hide or do whatever to survive. So if you're eating during that, there's no digestion going on. It just sits. There's nothing else happening. So it takes a lot of energy to digest. So anyway, now that I have a floating head because it's dark, I hope that was helpful. And I sure appreciate you if you sat here with me to the end and watched my floating head. I hope that's really helpful, because it's eventually, I believe that a person would get to the point where, because I had the habit of, I had like drinking and stuff through my 8 years. I did a lot of, I was on 14 prescription pills, 12 or 14. It was crazy. And I would drink when I'd be really depressed or something. And it just, and I didn't even, like, it just was a raunchy time for me. And then I started thinking about it, years ago now. And I was thinking everything has value, because, when Steve, before, when he wasn't feeling good, so he wasn't, he still wanted his gin and tonic every once in a while, but he would barely have any. And it was still kind of like this celebration thing, like something we did. And then when he was gone, or when he was in the hospital and stuff for like the 4 months, and I hardly even thought about having a drink at 5. Like, it was like the last thing on my mind, and that habit. But I was out of it. I wasn't in the same in our home, and things weren't stable. So my brain was shaken up. So that strongest program was no longer, like, it was shaken up. So, but once he passed, I was just thinking, like months later, I thought, I'm just gonna have a drink. For some reason I thought that, and I thought, wow, I haven't had a drink, and I hadn't even thought about having a drink in a long time. And now that's not the same as, say, somebody who says they're an alcoholic. I don't really agree personally that people are this or that. It's only if they say they are. And yes, I know there's medical things, so not to get into that, but I'm just telling you my belief. The more someone says they are something, guaranteed they are that. So, because that's how powerful. If we believe that, then there's nothing stronger than that. So if you believe that you were in a family that everyone had heart problems or cancer or this or that, and you believe that and that's true, then that's true. And if you look at epigenetics and the science of epigenetics, where 70% is your environment, 70%, that's a lot, and 30% is your DNA. Not sure. Anyway, the point is, look it up. And so if that's it's like, I would take those odds. I'd go 70 over 30 and think, okay, so everyone in my family has died of that, or has had that, or has done that, or has been an alcoholic, or has I don't believe that a person has to follow that because of, if you look at epigenetics. So anyway, I do think the stability spiral is something to download, because I truly believe, and it's 5 pages. Like, there's a lot more that I've written in here, what the states are and recognizing your own pattern and questions you can ask yourself. And I really believe that it's just a free download. I think it will, I think it's very transformative in the sense, oops, well, there it went. Oops, okay. I don't really the wind with the fire, but it hasn't been. It's been pretty quiet. But anyway, what was I saying? Very unlike me to forget where I was. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, maybe I'll just end it here. Darn it, because I don't remember. It's very unlike me not to remember. So the second that I that I say my ending, what was I saying? So we're ending. I think where I was going was that you are not your identity unless you choose that identity. And an identity is literally, you say you are something, or a role that you choose, and you say, this is who I am, this is what I do. You know, you're an attorney, or you're a police officer, or you're a baker, or you're a chef, or you're a homemaker. That's an identity. And if you're real attached to it, if it shifts, there's going to be pain. There's going to be pain. Because if you are so attached to it that you don't let that go, you know, it's like, I was a wife, and that was not important to me, but it just was. And when I realized that I'm not a wife anymore, and I really don't care for the word widow, but it was shocking to my system. I was like, okay, well then what am I? Who am I? It was an identity, and I just took it for granted. And so all of a sudden I was shook to my core, because I no longer had a husband. I was no longer a wife. I was no longer married. Like, all the things that go with it. No longer had a companion. And so I'll just leave it there. I hope this has been helpful. I know it's a longer, but I hope that you got value out of this, because let me look at my notes before I go. Let me see if there's anything. Yeah, I wrote, identity isn't installed. Like, you can wire and rewire, but identity is accumulated evidence. Like, I am that, I am that, I am that, I am an alcoholic. So it's not like you act as if, or you become or install a new identity, but you practice returning back to yourself. And that's a good place to end it. You literally practice coming back to self and having that open, and that would be becoming, in any point, with the stability spiral, the internal operator, because you're coming from an empowered position. So that's it. Now I have more, but but I'll just keep going forever. Anyway, I hope this is okay. I haven't even looked at I've been looking at you. So anyway, that's all I have. So you can be, do, change, have, create, become absolutely anything. I believe in you. You can do this. As always, shining my light to brighten yours. And we will see you tomorrow for day 92, I think. Yeah, we did 90 yesterday. So today's 91. Day 92 of 365 is tomorrow. So see you tomorrow. Ciao.